6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Michael, are you taking the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Aplikowski?
Here.
Commissioner Goodwin?
Here.
Commissioner Steeler?
Here.
Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Vice Chair Stender?
Here.
And Chair Gerard?
Here.
Thank you.
We're asked if you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented or with changes.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Some non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yes.
One abstention. Motion carries. We've come to our open forum part of the meeting. We ask if anyone in the attendance would like to speak to the commission tonight. We invite you up, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple of minutes giving your thoughts. If you're here for one of the two public hearings, there will be a time during that application for input on that particular application. So this would really be something outside of the two agenda items tonight that have a public hearing. So with that, does anyone wish to speak to the commission this evening? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the open forum. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda consideration. There's one item A, approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 11, 2026.
I move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 11th, 2026.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention. Motion carries. On our regular agenda, we have two items tonight. They both have public hearings. The first one is a public hearing for Hidden Creek South. It's a preliminary plat and a PUD preliminary plan. The way this will work this evening, the staff will give a presentation on how they understand the application is going. Then we will, the commissioners will ask any questions after that that they may have. We will then ask the developer if they would like to add any comments, or we may have questions for them. Once that all has happened, we'll open a public hearing. I'll give you a little further instruction on that. Once we've had the public hearing, we will close the public hearing and it'll come back for decisions by the commission. And that'll be the same for both public hearings. So with that, Stephen, are you the man?
Thank you, Chair Gerard. As you said, we're here tonight to talk about Hidden Creek South. This is a preliminary plat and PUD amendment submitted by the Headwaters Land Group. The site consists of approximately 56.5 acres south of Headwaters Parkway within the Headwaters Master PUD area. The applicant proposes 171 single-family detached homes at a gross density of approximately 3.02 units per acre, which is within the comprehensive plan's low-medium density range of 3 to 6 units per acre. The housing mix includes 50-foot and 65-foot lots. The 50-foot lots range from approximately 6,325 to 7,000 square feet. The 65-foot lots range from approximately 8,100 to 15,000 square feet. Under MXR1 zoning, minimum lot width is 65 feet and minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet. Under the approved Headwaters Master PUD, lot width remains 65 feet and lot size is reduced to 7,000 square feet. Because the proposal introduces 50-foot lots and smaller minimum lot sizes than previously approved, a PUD amendment is required. Next, I'll briefly visit the concept plan review history. This project was reviewed at concept plan stage in March of 2025. At that time, no development rights were granted. The purpose was to provide early guidance. Key feedback included a formal PUD amendment would be required. The applicant would need to demonstrate sufficient public benefit to justify flexibility, Headwaters Parkway must meet full major collector standards. There were discussions regarding roadway functionality and long-term parking impacts. Stormwater design would need to address regional drainage and existing tile systems, and stormwater pond areas could not count towards park dedication. Tonight's preliminary plat reflects that direction and advances the project into formal review. With that context, I'll begin with the street network. Headwaters Parkway is classified as a major collector roadway. That classification carries specific design expectations. Collectors are intended to move traffic efficiently across the city and are not designed to function as local neighborhood streets with frequent driveway access. Headwaters Parkway requires approximately 100-foot driveway separation from intersection to curb returns to reduce conflict points and improve safety. The extension must match the existing parkway cross-section, including lane widths, boulevard spacing, and the multi-use trail corridor. Now turning to the internal street network. The preliminary plat submitted meets city standards for street widths. There has been verbal discussion about potentially allowing 30-foot wide streets in portions of the development. From a staff perspective, we would support 30-foot widths for Street D2 and Street E2 for consistency with Ely Avenue North and internal continuity. These streets are marked in green, with Ely North being just north of D2. However, staff recommends that all other streets conform to the city's adopted standards. Street A2 in red warrants particular attention. Because A2 creates a relatively straight alignment from Headwaters Parkway through this plat and connects to the parcel to the south, there is potential for increased travel speeds over time. The city engineer has recommended evaluating traffic calming measures beyond just stop signs, potentially including mid-block treatments to proactively address long-term safety considerations. Finally, Street F2, unmarked but running, I don't have my, Street F2 will serve as the primary corridor for water and sanitary sewer infrastructure. Routing utilities through F2 allows removal of those lines from the Headwaters Parkway right-of-way west of English, improving long-term maintenance access and preserving the collector corridor's transportation function. Also, quickly on the topic of Headwater Parkway, I wanted to address a related policy discussion. Since we're already discussing Headwaters Parkway, I want to briefly acknowledge a related discussion that will be occurring at the city council level. As part of the project, the parkway is required to be extended through the site. The applicant has asked the city to consider participating in a portion of the construction costs, given the broader transportation role the roadway serves beyond just this development. That discussion is currently scheduled for the March 9th city council meeting. Tonight is the required public hearing for this project, and public comment may address any aspect of the proposal, including the roadway. Your action this evening is to review the land use implications of the preliminary plat and PUD amendment and make a recommendation to council. The council will ultimately consider both your recommendation and the related cost participation discussion. We simply want to make sure everyone understands how those conversations are connected, even though they occur at slightly different procedural settings. With roadway considerations addressed, I'll now move into stormwater and drainage, which directly influences the overall site layout. Stormwater remains one of the more technical components of this proposal and continues to involve coordination between the applicant, the city engineer, and the Rice Creek Watershed District. The preliminary plat identifies two primary ponding areas within outlots A and B. This is a major, along with internal storm sewer network. The city engineer's February 4th, 2026 review memorandum outlines several items that must be addressed prior to final plat approval. These include ensuring that no stormwater storage occurs within the Headwaters Parkway right-of-way, reevaluating the originally proposed off-site bypass line, and refining the southern drainage system on the western parcel to ensure full compliance with city watershed standards. The applicant has discussed potential adjustments to the southern system, and those concepts continue to be evaluated. Staff is recommending a condition requiring a final stormwater design to provide adequate on-site storage or appropriately managed discharge in a manner that does not create adverse impacts to adjacent properties and complies with all regulatory standards. Just for reference, there is a low point that exists right here that currently has stormwater running this way. We're proposing either that the applicant provides a solution that will run it to these wetlands that would be here on the west, or another temporary storage that may exist somewhere around here. Any final configuration must demonstrate compliance with city rate control standards, watershed requirements, and account for regional overland flow and existing drain tile systems. All required Rice Creek Watershed District approvals must be obtained prior to final plat. The city has reviewed park planning in this area before. As part of the earlier phase of Hidden Creek, approximately 3.17 acres of parkland were dedicated west of Headwaters Parkway. That area is shown in green on the map. That previously dedicated acreage is not included in the 10% calculation for Hidden Creek South, since each plat must meet its own dedication requirement under city code. However, when you look at that previously dedicated 3.17 acres together with the proposed dedication in Outlot A, which is directly south of the existing park, the combined area supports the earlier direction of creating one larger neighborhood park rather than smaller fragmented park spaces. In addition to Outlot A, the developers proposed land dedication within Outlot C in the southeast portion of the development, right here. During concept plan review in April of 2025, staff estimated that approximately 5 to 6 acres would be required to meet the 10% dedication standard and clarified that stormwater ponds cannot count toward that requirement. So tonight, the focus is on usable acreage. Outlot A contains 3.22 acres total. Of that, approximately 1.3 acres is stormwater ponding, leaving approximately 1.92 acres of usable land. Outlot C contains approximately 0.88 acres total, and approximately 0.4 acres is wetland, leaving approximately 0.4 acres of usable land. City code requires that wetlands and stormwater areas be excluded from park dedication calculations, and that dedication equal 10% of net developable acreage. Based on the calculations provided, the applicant is proposing a combination of land dedication and fee in lieu to meet that requirement. This development was presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission on February 18th, last Wednesday. After review and discussion, the Parks Commission recommended that the City Council accept the proposed combination of land dedication and fee in lieu to satisfy the 10% requirement. So the decision point this evening is whether the proposed configuration, usable acreage, and overall dedication structure meet city code and community expectations. In summary, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat and PUD amendment subject to general compliance with the city code and the city engineer's February 4th, 2026 review memorandum, including roadway, utility, and stormwater requirements. The development must meet city street standards, obtain all required watershed approvals, and satisfy the 10% park dedication requirements based on usable acreage prior to final plat approval. With that overview, the developer is here. If you have any questions for him before opening the public hearing. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions of staff? Susan?
Regard to the 30-foot roadways, you said that the D2 needed to be 30 feet to match what's to the north. Is that constructed yet?
The last remaining portion, the fourth phase of Hidden Creek South has not been, but the third phase is under construction. I think the first lift has been put on already. I'm sorry. On the third phase, the Ely Avenue has been constructed through that third phase plat already.
Okay. This is going to be a significant road, north-south. Second, the lots that we have here are not going to have a significant amount of parking in driveways, one, maybe 2 cars. If you have a 30-foot roadway in the wintertime, when you've got snow taking up, we'll call it just 1 lane, half on either side, and parking in the street, I have a real problem with the 30-foot wide streets, and I believe I mentioned that in the past. This is Minnesota, and especially in the wintertime, that's going to be a problem, and these lots are not significantly large enough for the parking of commensurate with the style homes that I understand and the number of bedrooms to be there. Do you want comments now on the smaller lots, on the request for the smaller lots?
We can. Could I address your
Certainly,
road
please.
widths? So especially with D2, they'd be parking on just one side. And these are the larger lots that match the actual MXR1 code, the 65-foot and square footage. So there's more space than would be available at the ones that we are granting the flexibility to that would be on the east side of Headwaters Parkway. To be able to address this as it pertains to the road widths, this is solely to be able to connect it to the existing development. And we've worked with our city engineer and our public service to determine, hey, is this appropriate for access for fire and snow plows? And with parking just on one side and being able to identify parking just on one side, they have expressed no concern with the width just being limited to these two streets.
So we're going to start actually ticketing and towing for parking enforcement. I'm just, humans are going to be in these houses, and humans are notoriously challenged when it comes to it's Thanksgiving or it's a birthday party, and oh my gosh, where are we going to park? Well, it says parking on one side, but nobody's going to be here today. And then we have trouble getting through a subdivision.
Commissioner, if I might just jump in,
Yes.
we do recognize that, and that is why we have worked with the developer to increase the roadway width in all remaining portions of the development that will extend into other development areas. We've heard from the Planning Commission and the council about the concern for the small roadways, and do believe that isn't something that we want to carry into that whole southwest corridor. However, with D2 specifically, that is carrying the Ely Avenue design through that neighborhood and allowing for this development, which this was ghost platted as part of the original, and I understand ghost plats aren't binding in any way, but we did anticipate this lot configuration and roadway with the first phase, or the Hidden Creek South as it sits today. I will also note, other than when there has been construction going on, and I've driven through the neighborhood, I was through there tonight, other than when construction has been going on, we have not heard the concerns, and I'm not saying they're not valid concerns, but we have not heard from our public safety professionals that there has concern when there is not construction going on.
Thank you.
Other questions to staff?
Yeah. The recommendation is to allow the changes, the proposed changes from the approved PUD. And one of the criteria is that there's sufficient public benefit to justify the deviations from the approved Headwaters Master PUD standards. I understand the benefit to the developer of the smaller lots. I absolutely do. I am not sure that I understand the benefits to the larger community. One of the issues in Forest Lake is that we have a significant amount of residential development without commensurate commercial industrial development to balance property taxes. I believe it is still the case that every residential rooftop in the city costs the city between 1.3 and 1.5%, or about 1.5 times. It costs the city about 1.5 times the property tax that a residential rooftop brings in to run the city. When we're jamming lots more rooftops into here, and it really is a fair number, what we have is a bigger demand on city services, and then the requirement to be constantly chasing increased residential property taxes to meet the needs that we created ourselves by a significantly increased density. In addition, I'm going to really question the amount of parkland on the east side, that's, as I'm looking north, where you've got the Street 02 and Outlot B, et cetera, et cetera. I see very little opportunity except on the cul-de-sac for significant yard space, for a kids to play, to have backyard structures, to soccer balls, the whole 9 yards. Again, what we've seen in the city is a strong need for parkland since we have been moving more and more toward smaller lots, and demand from the community for dog parks, soccer fields, baseball complexes, undesignated open spaces. I guess I'm wondering what the specific benefits to the larger community of granting the request for the 50-foot lots is perceived to be.
I think a large part of that public benefit is the infrastructure that's being installed that would be connected to the rest of the areas around here. The parks being there, I know they're obligated to do the parks. And let's not mention the extension of Headwaters Parkway is a significant public benefit that we realize with this development. As it pertains to the density, this is, as you can see, our 2040 comp plan says that this is 3 to 6 units per acre, and this is as close to 3 as you can get. This is as least dense as you could get based on what our 2040 comp plan says for this area. This, according to our comp plan, and if you're concerned about density, is best case scenario for what density could be allowed within that district, because it is so barely above what's required of that zoning district. As it pertains to Outlet C, that small park, let's not forget that there is a potential parcel to the east of this, that Outlet C could be, that park in the southeast corner could be connected to, and that would be a path that we would go down as we are developing that to inform
Guaranteed?
that. No, I mean, I can't guarantee that a developer would do that, but that would be the direction of staff in our preliminary discussions with anybody looking at that potential development of that parcel. So that's largely what we would be suggesting with this. And the combination of Outlet A with that previous parkland is probably one of the greatest successes of planning I've seen yet, of being able to combine these two things into a major park. And working with our Public Works, working with our Parks Department, we have elected to program that park ourselves. That's why you do not see trails. We don't want to inhibit ourselves by being able to program what goes in that park. We want to put that through a full process with the public and through our Parks Committee to see what is required within that park that would support not just this neighborhood, but the neighborhoods around it. But not to mention, again, going back to that Outlet C, being able to develop another neighborhood park on that southeast side would be another very good benefit to the development of this area and addressing those green space needs.
There are how many total residential properties
In
in
this
this tonight?
171
Okay.
is what's being proposed.
And the total acreage of the Outlot B and the hoped-for section to the north would be?
You're saying Outlot B, the
Outlot A.
Outlot A is, let me go back to the parks discussion. So the usable acres are 1.92.
And you're hoping for another 3?
No, we would be accepting fee in lieu per the recommendation of the Parks Commission. To
So
bridge that gap.
your total acreage in those two, in the 3.17 and in the Outlot A is 5.5 acres?
Yeah, or close to it. What they required is 5.5 acres. It's actually 2.4 acres. That's land that's being dedicated with,
In the south.
To answer your question, Susan, yes, between the two parcels, you'll be just over 5 acres of parkland where Outlot A is.
And
with the
for,
property to the north.
right, to be essentially shared with 100 and, you said 51?
71.
Oh, 171 properties looking for recreation or open space or substitute for yard space. I understand that the park board has already said yes to this, but I'm still trying to understand the public benefit. The developer needed to put in infrastructure, whether it's 20 lots or 50 or 100. I'm still looking for significant public benefit for the 50-foot lots. And if you could help me understand that, that's gonna be great.
If I might just chime in, I can understand how you want that from us, and I don't know if staff can offer you any additional information. The applicant is here and probably could also weigh in on their thoughts on public benefit. I will say one of the aspects of this development that is desirable to the city and to the future residents is that though we are taking less or asking for less than the 10% land dedication of land being dedicated, the additional dedication amount would come in fee in lieu, allowing the park to be built out, as opposed to just getting raw land and waiting until the city is ready to build it out. Because the city has not had a great track record of necessarily investing in our park systems, and we are trying to do better in our neighborhoods and for those future residents. Now, that's not to say anything about the public benefit question that you're asking, just to touch a little bit on that. Less than 10% parkland dedication.
But we have had a number of developers develop the park, at least a preliminary, as part of the public benefit. And I get what Susan is saying, you know, it's a give and take, and it seems that we're giving a lot and getting little. And so something with the park, being done with the park, and they're not gonna build 171 houses in a year. I would think that we'd be able to come up with a plan that would be agreeable to all parties to get something of a park instead of having to wait 10 years, you know. Just off the cuff, you got 5 acres here, and you're gonna have, this is likely gonna be a child-happy neighborhood. Mow the grass and let them run. That would be my 2 cents.
One thing I want to, before the developer, he originally proposed programming this park. It was in discussions with Parks and Public Works that they would rather have the fee in lieu and be able to program this park to best meet the needs of this area, with having the city be able to develop this as they saw fit, rather than leave it to developer to develop as they saw fit. The city felt like they understand the needs of this area and what recreation needs are needed, and they elected to accept that fee in lieu rather than having program.
I got no problem with the fee in lieu. I'm talking this should be above and beyond the land plus the fee in lieu, that some work should be done by the developer to show goodwill for what the city got from this, besides 171 rooftops. And I cut off somebody here, so I apologize. Jesse?
Yeah, I was wondering, what is the fee in lieu, like in dollar amounts?
Well, that hasn't been determined at the moment. The base price that's listed in the city's fee schedule is $2,500 per lot. But we do have an ordinance that allows for an individualized fair market assessment of the property. Generally, that goes hand in hand with a little bit higher than that $2,500 per lot. This is in line with what we did on the existing Hidden Creek South as well, is we took less parkland and then some cash contribution to be able to build out the parkland needs in the future. We don't have that specific dollar amount yet, and if we did, I wouldn't disclose it on the record, because until the time of our development agreement, that is something that we would continue to negotiate with the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Andy?
Do we know how many lots are below the 7,000 square foot requirement? It looks like it's probably close to half,
It's a little less than half.
a little less than half.
I would put it at 45, 55, but I can't give you an exact number.
I think giving a few lots the exemption because of a circumstance on the property, I think most people can agree with that, but such a large number, that's a tough one to swallow, I think, especially because there are some larger lots on here where I think you could still get at 3 if you adjust some of the other lots, is really where I see it. On top of the lack of a park, of, you know, the public hearings we have, they're usually full, are because no one ever built the park. And I think we need to stop kicking that can down the road sometime. Thank you.
Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll have to develop, Tim?
Yeah, I'm gonna just agree with you, Andy. The 50-foot lot size, and so many of them, I have real concern with, especially when I look at the housing product. You're talking about a 35-foot wide house. That doesn't leave much for a side lot. I think we've always had the 65-foot lot, and to go away from that, where does it stop? Next time when the next developer comes in and says, well, Headwaters had 65, Hidden Creek has 50, we're gonna do this, we'd like 45 feet. At some point, we're just getting houses stacked in here, so I'm not for it.
We have a issue with, when we changed the MXR1, we cut our lot sizes in half. We cut the width by 15 feet from 80 to 65, with the hope of getting rid of PUDs and having all conforming lots. Unfortunately, and I think the bulk of this commission is not favorable to 50-foot lots. However, I can empathize with the city being stuck with the comprehensive plan, trying to get us at 3 units per acre, which until the next comprehensive plan comes out and are able to negotiate something, we're somewhat stuck with this to some extent. So I get that also, but whatever we can do in the future to eliminate these smaller lots and still hit 3, I think would be appreciated, and I know you got a lot of constraints on all of them. So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and I don't disregard the comments by anyone on the commission, because I'm right with you. These 50-foot lots, we were afraid of this when we had the discussions from going from 80 to 65, that the first thing we're going to see is 50-foot lots. And here we are. We have 3 or 4 more developments coming forward to us in the next couple months. I'd be stunned if none of them came in with at least a few lots that are 50. But I really think that, so, you know, just so I can, and I think Steve is correct, I counted 99 lots that had 65-foot widths. So it gives us roughly 43 or 44% are 50-foot wide lots. But it's really hard to count on a laptop when you got to keep moving the screen.
I tried to do the same thing.
So, if there's any other comments besides the lot size, because I think that's been fairly loud and clear, I'd ask the developer if you have anything you would like to add. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Dobbs. I represent the Hidden Creek subdivision, 2119 Avon Street North, Roseville. So I guess I'd like to start straight up with just saying a couple things popped up on our end this morning that, and yesterday afternoon as well, that about 97, 98, and I'm just pulling a number, of the staff report and our plat we agree with, but there's a couple underlying things that really don't probably change the plat at all, but some things we kind of need to work out. So I was, because it's already public hearing and already noticed up, I was going to ask to be tabled anyway, and just kind of push it so I can kind of work through a couple of small issues on our end. But as in listening to the group, I didn't come prepared like I did last time to talk about what I believe personally, not only in this site but in general, is a real problem, which is affordability, which is, you know, I can feedback what you guys just said, and I understand. We've had this dialogue about lot size since the time I first met, and I've had this conversation several times at this podium. That being said, I would love to find a way to make things more affordable and not shrink things. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. I'm also a realtor and did the math, so don't take this with a grain of salt. But a single-family house in Riverstone, or in Hidden Creek First versus a single-family house in Hidden Creek Third, that number is significantly higher in less than 3 or 4 years. And everything's gone up. I mean, our insurances, our costs, all of that. And what's happening, not only here, but in other places, is it's just people can't afford houses anymore. And so it's not an anomaly, and I'm not talking about Forest Lake, but in general, it's not an anomaly that places like Florida and California and places where people are living and moving into, the lots got smaller because it was the only way to make it more affordable. And I can have Capstone, and one of the things I'd like to do is have Capstone just do a quick narrative of what they've done with their villa product, which is the 50-foot lots. But they're going to start 350 to 400. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound affordable to me. Townhouses are actually more attached product, because then you run into the building code, and the building code start talking about firewalls and start talking about sprinkler systems and all of that. Interest rates are up, all the reasons that the real estate market is the way it is. So in general, that's kind of the goal. The other one is, and it's not a happenstance that it's 3.02 acres, to Stephen's point, this is how we get there. I mean, I can't get to 3 with 65-foot lots. It'd be 2.3, 2.4 units per acre, which is significantly under what the zoning says we can get. And the byproduct of that is you end up with a number of the things that you guys have brought up. So I will come back with more facts. I'll send an email. I'll give you guys the stats. My memory is that you had to live in a house that Capstone's building, you had to make over $100 grand a year and have no debt, just to qualify. Now, interest rates have changed since I did it last time. Not huge, but somewhat. So there is an affordability issue, there's a density issue. And then I don't think we're the first one in the city to have small lots. They're 50-foot wide. Maybe I'm wrong about that. There was another project over by that had a little bit smaller than 65-foot wide lots that was approved not long ago.
I'm not sure about that, but just to the north of the Parkway in Headwaters 12th, we have 55-foot wide lots. So the 55 or 50-foot wide lots is not uncommon in this southwest area. Headwaters 12th, I don't know exactly when it was approved, but it is following a similar development pattern directly to the north.
Thank you, Abby. Another part of the problem is there's costs all over the place. There's our costs, there's city costs, there's construction costs, there's vertical sticks and bricks costs. So anyway, I guess in general, that's what I would say to why we end up where we end up. And then briefly, and I stood, I think, in front of you folks and talked about trying to figure out a joint way to do park and to actually build a park and to have it all kind of come in at once. This site is complex, just like the first phase was, for a lot of the same reasons. The road, the soil types, the amount of stormwater, the JD Judicial Ditch number 4. And then came to parks and started talking a little bit about those ideas. Just didn't seem like that was going to be the right way to get through that process. But that was our intent. And I think that was the city's intent. But we're land developers with a client that's a home builder. The city has their point of view. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on with that process. I think the last time we were here, we talked about it. I've been involved in a couple of them over in Ramsey, and even talked about maybe getting some addresses. But there's an underlying collaborative effort in there that if people aren't on the same page, makes it really difficult. What is a good park? Very subjective statement. What looks like a good park? What ended up happening in Ramsey was something I'd never seen before. And I'm a landscape architect by training, a degree from the University of Minnesota. It was awesome. But I'm not sure a lot of cities would go for what ended up happening. So it just seemed like the details were going to get bogged down. Our intent was to try to do it all at once. I think the city's intent was to try to work with us to do that as well. It just seemed like that was just going to become difficult given all the other things going on this site. So I paused that process.
Before I open it up for questions, John, you're asking for us to table this evening. because you may have some, what you're calling minor changes. When do you think you'll be back to us?
2 weeks.
So that would be our March 11th meeting? Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes.
March 11th? Now I throw it open, I just want to make sure when you're coming, so when we do a motion later.
So I kind of heard that perhaps the benefit to the city is affordability of these smaller lots. And I know that you can't see what I'm looking at here, but I've got a lot 11, 12, 14, whatever, on the north side of Street G2. And I'm looking at the size of those lots, and I'm assuming that they would be very significantly cheaper, even with a house on them, than, say, lot 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on Street F2, so that, can you give me a sense of the difference in affordability of the houses on those kinds of lots?
As I generally said, I give you what I've heard as a ballpark, but what I would like to do is come back with a written narrative from Capstone specifically, given where we're at. Last time Capstone and I had this conversation was probably 6 months ago in general, before we started kind of planning for this. And it was 25% cheaper than what their houses are as a rule, in the first and second, and particularly the third phase. You know, it's hard to build a single-family house on a 65-foot wide lot in Forest Lake for under $470,000, and that's kind of the bottom floor. So, and that makes it pretty expensive for people to buy.
So then if 400,000 on a 65-foot lot, you're gonna have a smaller house on a 50-foot lot, are we talking 300?
About 25% less, plus or minus.
Yeah, that's about 300.
I'm sorry?
That would end up being about a $300,000 house.
Do you think John did indicate, though, that would be a base price? So, I do.
I heard that, but I'm trying to help find some benefit here. And if we're looking for more affordable homes in Forest Lake, quite frankly, not right now, that's the only thing I can find as a benefit to the larger community.
And as a benefit to the larger community, Commissioner Young and members of the commission, more housing will help bring down housing prices. We are in a housing shortage as a region and as a nation, and that is partially due to the lack of housing.
Other questions, Susan, for the applicant?
No, sir.
Other commissioners, questions?
I'd just like to once again state that I think putting such a large number of smaller lots clustered together with a park nowhere in sight. At previous meetings, I've expressed the problem of this type of a scenario is parents have kids who want to go out and play in the yard, and they don't have a yard to play in because we're also making them put 4 trees on these tiny lots. So now where are they going to go? They're going to go play if the aerial footage in the packet is correct, it's just farm fields right around them? Or are they going to go across a
Not
ditch?
yet.
But, I mean, that's the scenario. So I understand the economics, and there's forces at play that we don't like, and I worry about future generations looking back and going at that, why did they let them build these tiny houses like this? So I think that's a real problem, and the lack of park to make up for the lack of yard is kind of a poison pill for me.
And Paul and I have both been around 30-foot lots in a core city. But there you have a significant park within 6 blocks of every house. This ain't it. And I am worried about families coming to town and being, well, we heard it with the subdivision across from Forest Hills Golf Course. Having an expectation that there will be some sort of recreational opportunity in the community, and it isn't there. And if you're going to invite families and you want families to come into your community and support your school district and support all of the public and private infrastructure that a community has, restaurants, stores, whatever, you've got to provide the full package.
Other comments at this time? We may have questions for you after the public hearing.
No problem.
Thank you, John. This is a public hearing. To be honest, it's a little unusual for a developer to ask for the table because they have to work some stuff out. We will this will be the only time we take comment for this development. If it turns out that the changes to the development turn out to be more than just minor, there would have to be another public hearing at some future date. The applicant has stated he plans to be back here March 11th, which would be our next meeting. We meet the second and fourth Wednesdays. So at that time, you're welcome to join us again, but there won't be a public comment section during the proposal for Hidden Creek South. There will still be the open forum at the beginning. So with that, we'll have the public hearing. What'll happen, we ask if anyone who wishes to speak to this, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts on this application. Once we have heard from all parties, we will close the public hearing. It'll come back for further discussion. And in this case, the applicant's asked for a table, so that will likely be the outcome. So with that, we'll open the public hearing at 6:47 p.m. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? We don't bite.
It's always the brave one to go first, if I am, or maybe the only. My name is Katie Cerney, C-E-R-N-E-Y. I live at 4625 195th Street. So if you're looking at this map and where the bottom left corner is with lots 12, 13, if that road extended, it would run into the parcel of land on which I live. It's owned by my mom, Patricia Cerney, who's also here. We're excited to see development continuing and actually applaud the things that I've seen over the last several years and the proactiveness of planning and moving development along deliberately from the council in recent years. So that's great to see. We've also seen, I've noticed that even between this plat and the last one, there's been some changes that reflect that, such as where 11, 12, and 13 are on there on the bottom left corner. It was originally a cul-de-sac, but I know you guys looked at it and said you want to make sure that development continues to align with what could be in the future. Wonderful, respect that. I know some of the things that we have concerned with are already identified as concerns, so really I feel like I'm just reiterating some of those things. One is stormwater and potential water impacts from the development coming south. So we've seen things in I think the Southwest Corridor study, the road alignment things that we don't necessarily agree with or like, but wanting to make sure that as the stuff to the south is still being figured out, the issues that could be coming from these developments don't get kicked down the road, that they're handled within and handled in the way that if that was a standalone, it doesn't bleed onto other properties adjacent. So the water is one of those. The other one, I don't know if people have been thinking about, I think I've heard Susan talk about roads and access. 195th Street, if you keep going south here and we're to go due west, where Headwaters Parkway was originally aligned in the 2040 plan, is a privately maintained road. We're the only house on that road. I'm out there on a four-wheeler plowing it in the winter. So when this is progressing, I'd like to ask the commissioner and city staff to consider as it's phased and as it's developed, how that traffic, and people are gonna be people, is going to go. So just, even now, especially last summer with 97 being closed, you can imagine how many people come down 195th Street, assuming they can get through. And then with the craziness that happened around Elm Crest, Hornsby, et cetera, or Elm Crest, 190th, et cetera, it just makes it worse. And with this being even closer, we already had people coming across the fields and driving across the fields. And they're going to see people doing that because there are people that are okay to do that. But the majority of the public is not. Actually, the public is not okay to do that. So just want to make sure that the commission knows that is a major concern for how this might play out. So that's, thank you.
Normally, we don't ask questions, but how far south is 195th from,
It's almost exactly where the road there ends. So if, right now, the driveway for the house, it would be just a little bit offset. If you kept going straight, that road would connect right to it. So there, thank you. So you can see the house,
Oh, yeah.
and then if you follow that line, so that's 195th. And then right to the right there, it's basically just field road. But that's right where, if you add the lot on 13 right to the right of that yellow line, that's right about where that's gonna come in.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this application?
My name is Paul Schmid. I'm at 18070 July Avenue, Forest Lake. I was not planning to speak at all, but from what conversation has occurred here and taking a look at the maps a little earlier today, and then here, just a couple of comments. One is affordability is critical for the public and for the community. Number two, affordability will create community, Forest Lake community. Three, which was spoken by the woman over there, more homes, more affordability will be beneficial to the community and to society larger. And then just speaking about kids, kids play wherever. It would be wonderful to have parks like in the cities every 6 blocks. I see some places, and I also see Fenway Park, which I looked up is 1.5 miles away. People of the older times can think, well, the kids should just be able to go. 1.5 miles isn't so far away. However, with today's family, kids are watched. They can jump in the car and everybody can go there. I would love to have more parks, bigger spaces for kids to do things. I think not that far away is a place where families can bring their children here.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak to this application? I'll ask one more time. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Stephen, do we have anything to read in from the public?
No, sir, we received no written comments.
Thank you. Seeing no one come forth and having no public comment to read in, we will close the public hearing at 6:54 p.m. I'll remind the commissioners, the applicant has asked for us to table this evening so they can make some minor changes. Again, minor changes are minor changes. If it turns out that streets are moving, lots of lots are moving, it will be right back here with another public hearing. So with that, further discussion.
Chair, could I just state for the record possibly that if there are major modifications and we would need to renotice, we've likely missed our notification deadline for this to be on the March 11th meeting.
Correct.
And so I just want to at least be clear on the record that though we anticipate this will be back March 11th, it could be your second meeting in March, just depending on the nature of the changes.
And if there's no public hearing required, there will be no notice sent out. So I encourage you to check the city website to see what's going on.
Email city staff, we can also notify you.
I'd like to keep everyone informed, because then you guys don't come back and yell at us. Or when I'm shopping, let's say, that may happen.
I know everyone.
So, commissioners, questions, comments? Susan?
One, Fenway is a city-owned park. However, it is an athletic complex. And in full disclosure, I am on the board of the Forest Lake Area Athletic Association. One of our biggest problems with Fenway Field is kids coming onto the fields and riding their bikes and making the fields unplayable and unsafe for all the sports. And then the city has to come in and do massive, expensive work. These aren't like playgrounds. Fenway isn't designed as a playground. Think wannabe Blaine Sports Complex, which is a huge place, but is not exactly family park space. Was this all tiled? I remember it in the long ago being tiled for farming.
I can't speak to that at this time.
Because I'm wondering if that's some of the issues that those tiles aren't maintained and aren't there anymore that have resulted in some of the drainage challenges and water flow challenges.
We have engineers that are looking into that. I do also just, I know that you sit on the board with the Athletic Association, but Fenway does have a playground, so there are recreational amenities there.
Other comments? Commissioners? Any?
Yeah, is there an overflow for stormwater if we have an excessive rain? Is there anywhere for water to go to leave this property, or is it all gonna be self-contained?
It will not be self-contained. No, we can't self-contain water in Forest Lake. So the water that would be in Stormwater Pond Outlet B on the north side ends up hooking into a stormwater system just to the north of the Plat underneath the parkway that actually flows north and then up to the west and then back down to the south around all of Hidden Creek. We also have water that is flowing through the existing Hidden Creek. I don't know if this ties into that too as well, that pushes it west. And then the stormwater on the south that we're talking about, that stormwater on the south, it's anticipated that a potential redesign could be that the water would end up flowing to the west into a wetland complex to the west of the property. All of that would be looked at with the modeling that was submitted with the developer or with any changes to the stormwater plan. So none of it's self-contained.
I would urge caution that we're just gonna let the water go over there, because eventually that land might wanna develop too.
Yeah, no, we don't allow for any development to push their water onto a neighboring development. So they're gonna have to self-contain it and then transfer it into existing water systems, and also show that it's not going to put a detriment on those existing water systems, so that there's a bounce, and that bounce doesn't overflow then back onto those existing neighbors. So that is something that our engineering team
I
is
just
looking
think it's
into.
good for everyone to know that.
Yep.
Any other comments?
I will
Questions?
say,
Yes.
Commissioner Aplikowski, those are great questions, because we do want to state those things on the record to reaffirm that we are taking every precaution to make sure that this isn't negatively impacting those adjacent neighbors.
We're good? Well, the chair will make a motion to table this to our March 11th meeting based on it only being minor changes, or to a later date if major changes occur requiring another public hearing.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for those who came to participate in this event, the potential that they will be again at the March 11th meeting, unless there's major changes, and then there'll be a public hearing. If that's the case, you'll once again be informed like you were last time. However, I would check with the city to see if they're coming back on March 11th. Again, the open forum would be available at that time. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, before we get to item number 7B, this is a public hearing for variance for a driveway setback reduction at 23375 Itasca Avenue North. Commissioner Apikowski from the Planning Commission is the applicant. Hopefully I didn't massacre it too bad. So he will step down from the dais until we resolve this application, and then he will come back for the end of the meeting. So with that, Stephen, are you presenting?
This will be Michael.
It's gonna be me tonight.
All right,
I know.
new blood.
Before you tonight is a variance request for 23375 Itasca Avenue North. And as you stated, the applicant is Andy Apikowski. He owns the property, and this property is in the rural residential zoning district. I also want to note that it's not in our shoreland overlay district, and so it's not subject to those pervious surface requirements in that section of the code. The existing house on the property has a multi-level garage. Currently, only the upper level, which is on the north side, has driveway access. The applicant is requesting to extend the driveway to the rear of the property to properly access the rear garage. This is triggering the need for a variance because to reduce the driveway side yard setback requirements from 5 feet to 2 feet, which is a total variance of 3 feet. The existing conditions of this property, it's roughly 5 acres and has roughly a 4,000 square foot home that was constructed in 2002. And as stated before, the house was built with a 2-level garage. There's access on the north side of the property, and then there's another access on the east side of the property, which is the rear. And when the property was first developed, driveway access was only provided to the north garage. The garage in the rear is accessed by a sloping grass pathway that's shown in that image. The applicant has indicated that at times throughout the year it can become inaccessible during wet or freezing conditions, and that erosion has also been occurring over the years. I also want to note that driveway access is a requirement of code section 153119, subsection K. So now the applicant is proposing to extend the driveway all the way to the rear garage, and in addition is proposing to construct a retaining wall near the north property line to support and slightly level that land. The proposed extension is that in yellow on the survey. I do want to note that the retaining wall that he's proposing is below 4 feet in height, and so it is permitted, does not require a building permit, and isn't subject to this variance request. The main focus is on the proposed driveway. In residential zoning districts, driveways have required 5-foot setback from the side property line. The applicant is proposing the driveway within that 5-foot setback, and that's what's triggering the need for the variance. And that total variance would be for 3 feet. There are no proposed modifications to the existing dwelling or the garages or other aspects of the site. Staff evaluated the request against the city's variance criteria. For the unique conditions, we find that the existing dwelling location, an existing driveway access easement along the south side of the property that existed before the house was constructed, likely restricted where the house could be built, which resulted in it being built closer to the north property line, limiting the place for a driveway along the north property line. So that layout of the house, the layout of the existing garages, the layout of the existing driveway all create unique conditions. We find, one, that single-family homes with garages and driveways are a reasonable use in the rural residential zoning district, and that driveway access to garages are required per that city code section, and it's also consistent with our parking regulations for single-family dwellings. We find that this is not a self-created condition, as the configuration predated the applicant's ownership of the property. We find that there's no adverse impact or character change expected to the neighborhood. We are recommending conditions to prevent drainage from flowing onto his northern neighbor's property to prevent any sort of adverse impact on the neighbor's property line. And we find that this meets the intent of our code. It maintains the residential character, and it corrects a greater nonconformity, which is that currently a garage is not accessible via a driveway. Based on that, staff recommends approval of Resolution 02-25-2601, authorizing a 3-foot driveway side setback variance, allowing a driveway to be built 2 feet from the property line. The approval would come with conditions. In the staff report and in the resolution, we included a condition to provide a grading plan showing that drainage would be directed to the rear of the property, would not impact the neighbor's yard, or drain towards the house. The applicant has since provided that document, and we would not require that condition. All other conditions that are in our staff report and in the resolution, we would still recommend. That would include a condition to prohibit the discharge of eroded material onto the adjacent property, restricting that proposed retaining wall to 4 feet or less to make sure that it does not require a building permit and is permitted within that setback area, and requiring that the applicant follow all rules and obtain all applicable permits from the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I can hopefully answer them.
Questions of staff? We have none?
I'll take it.
Would the applicant like to add anything? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Andy Aplikowski, 23375 Itasca Avenue North. The intent of the retaining wall is actually to create it so that we get the slope going towards the back. So that's the intent of getting that retaining wall up to the property line at the narrowest point so that we can have a nice level blacktop going straight towards the back to the east, where after, once we get past the grass, it's a long slope down to probably a good 100 feet before it gets to a pond, so plenty of place for it to infill. And then the other thing is at the narrowest point, we're about 13 feet from an existing retaining wall to the property line. So that's why there's just, I got nowhere to go. That's why we have to come here for the variance.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
It's a lot easier to see why you need to do this if you're on Jamaica. Because, yeah, you got no place.
Yeah, this New Year's, after all that rain we had, it got on this, it caked into the snow and it turned into a skating rink. So I luckily had sand on site that I could sand my way around to get the truck out of there the last time.
Okay. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Again, we ask if you wish to speak to this application, please step up, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts on this application. Once we've heard from all parties, we will close the public hearing. So with that, we will open the public hearing at 7:08 p.m. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? I'll ask a second time. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Michael, do we have anything that needs to be read into the record? Any public?
We have not received any public comment.
Thank you. I'll give a last call for anyone who wishes to speak to this application. Seeing no one come forward and nothing to be read into the public record, we'll close the public hearing at 7:09 p.m., bring it back to the commission for further discussion and a decision. So with that, commissioners, what would you like to do? Susan?
I move approval of resolution 02-25-2601, memorializing the actions pertaining to the variance requested at 23375 Itasca Avenue North,
With the conditions.
with all conditions.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck with your project. We've come to our part of the meeting of discussion. You guys have anything for discussion, or we move to updates?
Updates, the only thing I have for discussion is you guys should have gone a little harder on Michael.
Probably.
Gracious, you guys were so easy for him.
No, I was out there today and looked and,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty open and shut.
You know, what you need to learn, Steve, is that he really did a nice job. Laid out
I'll try
all
harder.
the facts.
I'll try harder.
With that, we'll move to updates. We'll start with our esteemed council person, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I don't have really too much updates for you tonight. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Goodwin. I missed the last meeting, unfortunately, due to a leg issue here that I'm kind of still dealing with, but welcome. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to throw it off us and we'll work through things. The only thing maybe I will comment a little bit about is city administrator, which I'm sure you heard about, that we went with parting ways with our city administrator, Mr. Stotts, on a settlement agreement situation. So currently we have our assistant city administrator, Jolene Chaika, running the ship. However, she is on vacation for a little bit, which I'm sure is very well needed. So with that, we're moving forward with things. We have a Public Works Steering Committee on Friday. So we'll get some more updates on that, but that's moving forward as well. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you might have.
Questions for the council person? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, folks.
Abby?
The only update I have, I think all of you are included right now on the city's weekly updates. It's an internal document that we send out every Friday. Included in that last Friday was a note from the Community Development Department that Community Thread, who offers low-cost senior rides in our community, so Community Thread is a nonprofit, they are seeking additional driver volunteers and are holding volunteer info sessions in March. At this point, they have too many seniors and not enough riders or drivers to continue to expand the service in the community. So I told them I'd help share that information. If anybody is interested in learning more, I'd be happy to put that out there, and then we're going to try to put that out as well in our monthly communications. Additionally, I think over the last couple of months, you've heard a lot of updates from me on transportation and housing. We have 2 new web pages on our website, one underneath the our community tab, right up at the top. One of them is transportation resources, or transportation services and housing resources, two separate web pages, trying to at least get that information out. But we are also trying to lean on some of our partners that are offering these services, that when they're marketing them, sharing them through our social media feeds, to try to have some streamlined communication. Right now, we've got a lot of partners doing a lot of things, and the communication is all over the board, and we're really trying to streamline things into getting everybody using the same media, graphics, those sorts of things. So happy to answer any questions any of you have for any outstanding development projects or other long-range planning efforts that the city is undertaking at the moment.
Questions for Abby? None? All right, thank you. Steve?
I have a couple comments. One, this past week, I think one of the discussions earlier, we were talking about Chestnut Creek Phase 2. They have submitted a request to the city to change the name of that development to Havenwood. We have worked with all of our stakeholders, and now we have accepted that name. So when you hear, as we go forward, we'll make every effort to make sure people know that it's Chestnut Creek Phase 2. But it's now Havenwood, which is welcomed to the staff because of all the creeks and all the things that we have to kind match in all of our developments. So anything that's unique is more than welcome, so that we're staying ahead of things.
Sounds like a cemetery.
Havenwood, yeah, they did a lot of market research, and we welcomed it. So if you when you hear Havenwood, and you're like, when did this come before? Why is this at final plat? We'll make sure that we communicate that is Chestnut Creek Phase 2. The other is as it pertains to the Thames Marina EAW, just for your education, as well as any folks that you are in communication with. The city council will be deciding on March 9th if there is a requirement to go to an EIS on that proposal. And so don't miss that. But more importantly for this body is as it relates to the accompanying application for a CUP amendment, as well as a variance to allow that what they're proposing, those 2 additional docks. That will be in front of you on March 25th. But more importantly, there'll be a neighborhood meeting here on March 11th, so that the applicant can meet with the public regarding that development, and hopefully be able to kind of address some of the challenges that are being had with some of the groups in our community. So we'll see. Just want to let everybody know that neighborhood meeting will be occurring here at 5 on March 11th. And now that we have something on the agenda for March 11th, we have, I think Commissioner Stender has said that he's going to be jet setting that week, so you'll miss all the fun. But that will be largely what we'll be talking about the 11th. But the 25th will be probably a very well-attended meeting, because that is also a public hearing as it relates to that CUP and variance for Thames Marina. And we have informed our city council that the decision that they have in front of them on the 9th is not as pertains to the CUP and variance. It pertains to if there's enough environmental analysis to make a decision on the impacts of those proposed docks to the environment here in Forest Lake. So you will have all the fun on the 25th as the sole public hearing that will be on that project, even though it's not the environmental side. So it'll be fun, so pack a lunch on that day, and we'll probably sleep over. But that's it for me.
Questions of Stephen? Michael?
Nothing from me tonight.
Questions of Michael? Hi, Andy?
I just want to thank Stephen and Michael for the assistance with the variance application. It's a little overwhelming for the first time, so they were very good at providing examples, and really want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
But now you know what it feels like on the other side.
And I even offered, I was like, with all this boost, I'd like to sit down with you and understand, hey, what were the hangups, what were the challenges that you had that we could probably address as we're kind of addressing some of these code updates.
Okay. Tim?
I'm good tonight. No.
Susan?
2 quick things. One, there are only 11 of us right now that are doing the driving for Thrive. This is a really important thing to build, to what a developer said, building community. Keeping others in our community is really important, having them be in their own homes. I will tell you that I do a lot of volunteer work. This is one of the most rewarding things personally that I do, is to drive for Thrive.
Can I just hop in really quick and say, so the way the system works is when you register as a driver, they do have a background check, but beyond that, it's a drive if it works for you. So somebody makes a request, and if they can find a driver to make that drive, then it works. There's no obligation. But they shared with me one of their success stories after they expanded the program into the Forest Lake area last year, of a client who had asked if she and a friend of hers could go to an apple orchard, because they hadn't been to an apple orchard since they were much younger. And the driver took them to an apple orchard. And so these aren't all necessarily like doctor's appointments. Sometimes it's bringing them to visit family or to do something fun like that. So just wanted to add that in, because I think it is a very unique program that's being offered in the community.
Yeah. And the second thing is, it's jump time in Forest
Yeah.
Lake. And on Saturday at noon, We are having the Forest Lake Rotary Plunge. This is not a polar plunge, this is a rotary plunge. There are nonprofits, there are sports teams, there are local organizations. You have a city presence there. The Police Relief Fund is going to be jumping, and Steve is going to be jumping as part of that group. This is a big deal for some of the nonprofits and sports teams and local organizations. I know Invisible Wounds has got a team. We've got a couple of women's shelters that have teams. A group that fixes cars for folks that just can't afford it but need transportation is jumping, and the Forest Lake Good Samaritans are jumping. So it's a big deal, having a whole lot of fun. It's at noon. Down on the lake, behind what we used to call the bathhouse. It's not behind the gazebo, but you'll see the big honkin' tent, and we'll have bleachers, and you can be comfy and have fun.
Thank you. Maybe.
But there's no lions.
Dan?
No, nothing.
Jesse?
Nothing.
Corey? And I have nothing. So with that, the chair is looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.